because men obviously go through it too, but like I've had my own personal experience with that, so it hits home for me like big time when you talk about narcissistic. Yeah, I was a hairstylist for 18 years, and then I retired like last year. I like saying retired. Everyone's like, wait, how old are you? Being able to make someone feel good, because like honestly, yeah, it's money. You're bringing money in doing it, but it's more than that. Like, people are trusting you with their hair, and that's a big deal. Like, I don't trust anyone with my hair. Like, I even had the thought, like, will I be less attractive if I have smaller boobs? Like, that was one of my thoughts. And I was like, that's so stupid. Why would you even think that? Like, I put a lot of my trust in God. Oh my gosh, I'm nervous again.
Why?
I always get nervous. Hello.
What up, fool?
How are you?
I'm good, I'm chilling. How are you?
Pretty good.
Yeah? You like the shoes?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, hug.
You smell good.
Thanks.
How you been?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Just living life, the usual. How about you?
Good.
I started watching the Hunter's Heart episode, and I was right out the gate. I was like, "This is a heavy one. I'm feeling touched by this. I love going deep, so I'm like, what are we gonna talk about? Let's go deep."
Let's talk about
cocaine
and dinosaurs
and gaslighting.
Yeah.
I can relate to that so much. Like hearing, that, because men obviously go through it too, but like I've had my own personal experience with that, so it hits home for me like big time when you talk about narcissistic abuse, psychological abuse.
It was a new word that I learned.
Gaslighting?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't hear well, I know, like she said, there's buzzwords for things,
Yeah.
And that's what I don't like about buzzwords, is that it becomes trendy to say certain things. Like even when I talk to my therapist, I go to therapy like once a week, and I'm like,
equality?
Yeah.
Like equality?
Yeah, that's a buzzword for sure. But like I'll tell her, like, I feel like there's people in my family that have narcissistic traits, and then I have to catch myself and say, but don't think that I'm just like trying to diagnose them. Like I just genuinely feel like they have those traits, and I've had personal experience with that, so it's like yeah, therapies, we've talked about this before. It's been helpful for me, but
I think especially
I love this art, the Ephesians.
I can introduce you to the artist.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, because I pray that scripture every day, every morning.
Really?
Ephesians.
Meet George, the artist.
Oh, you did that one?
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah, I put on the full armor of God every single day, and I think it sounds silly sometimes, but it's not, because I'm a believer. So, bye. Have a good night. Good to see you too.
It's I don't know where he got that from. This exactly, because I wouldn't say he's religious, so I don't know where he got it from.
Yeah,
but I really like this one too.
So basically, that scripture, it basically, like it says, like the sword is like the word of God, like the Bible. And so everything has like your shield is your faith. That's a symbolic for the faith. The sword is the word of God. And like all the rest, like shod your feet with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Like there's different pieces of the armor that the warrior is wearing that are symbolic to the scripture. So
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know them all by heart, but I know
that
like
one.
I know those two for sure.
It's funny. On my side, I have not a knight, but I have a gladiator tattooed on the Roman Colosseum.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he's kneeling, and it's kind of like an homage to my parents. And for me, it's like the shield is like my mom's wisdom, right? Like I've learned to go through life using and protect myself through my mom's words of wisdom. And then the sword is like my dad's words of wisdom.
Yeah.
So how I can kind of correlate it with that.
And that's cool that you had that kind of relationship with your parents, like to feel that way. That's cool.
Yeah, all my tattoos are for my family.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everyone.
That's cool.
You have any tattoos?
0.
None?
Yeah.
Not a one?
Not even one. I wanted to. I've always wanted a rose, and I'm looking at the rose art right there. I
Mm-hmm.
always wanted a realistic rose. I don't know. I just was like, I went through this phase it was about 2017, 2016, where I was like hyper focused on like rose tattoos. And I was like thinking about it, kept thinking about it, kept thinking about it. And I could just never commit to doing it
Mhm.
because I feel like it's so permanent, you know? And it's like, yeah, you can laser it off, but I just felt like I don't want to one day look back and be like, oh, I shouldn't, like, I really didn't need this one tattoo. Because I feel like if you have one, you kind of need more than one. And like people say it's addicting. So then I also didn't want to just start putting random shit on me. Like, you know what I mean? So I
Mhm.
just never did it. And I remember my dad telling me, like my biological dad telling me, like, you know, basically like he had thought about getting a tattoo when he was younger and he never did it, and he's glad he didn't because he's grown so much and he changed so much, and if he would have got something when he was like 18, he wouldn't have liked it when he was like 40 or whatever. So that I think kind of ingrained in my head that like I don't want to regret it. But I think tattoos are like I've said this before, I love tattoos. I love the art form of tattoos. I used to watch all like Miami Ink, LA Ink, all that stuff. And like I guess I'm just non-committal when it comes to permanent things. Like, unless I know for sure it's like what I really, really, really want. And I can't say that I would feel that way about a tattoo. There's other things I could commit to, but not that.
As far as commit to like something else being tattooed on you, or committing to something else in
No,
general?
in
That's
general.
not a
Like
tattoo?
I can commit to other things. It's just like when it comes to like bodily things, like that. Yeah, I just couldn't.
But you really, really, really like roses?
Yeah.
So do you think that in 5 years' time or 10 years' time, your like or affinity for roses would change? Or the fact that you
It's the
got
fact that it would
tat-
be on my body that I might get like annoyed with looking at.
Why?
So like for me it's just I get annoyed with myself. Like I'll look in the mirror and be like, "Damn, I need to change something." Like I'm bored. But it's like I don't want to commit to anything like too crazy that I can't easily change back. Does that make sense? Like it sounds weird, but
No, I get it.
it's like, okay, you can cut your hair shorter, you can do something in your hair and it's going to grow back. But it's like something that you physically do. You better be ready to do it. So like, for example, like I don't know if I told you this, but I had surgery. I had a breast reduction surgery, and it took me, I basically, from the time I was like 17, 18, always like hated the fact that my boobs were just so big. I know this sounds like crazy, but I hated it because I couldn't fit into things. So in 2022, I made the decision to have a breast reduction, but the way that it happened was not the way that I thought it was going to happen. So I had like, so I don't, this is kind of embarrassing to say, but maybe some people can understand. When you have a bigger chest, like sometimes the breast tissue will like migrate into your armpits. So I started getting like this lump that was like growing in my armpit, and it was getting bigger and uncomfortable. Well, come to find out, the plastic surgeon told me that it's breast tissue. It's not fat. It's breast tissue. Like no matter how much you work out, you're never going to get rid of that. Like it's actual breast tissue. So I was like, okay. So initially I had like done my research and I was like, I'm going to go, find a plastic surgeon that can remove these lumps out of my armpits. Not really with the intention of getting a breast reduction at the time. So I went to this plastic surgeon in Claremont, and he was like, it's going to be $7,000 just to remove the lumps out of your armpits. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that's so expensive. But I was like, okay, let me do some more research. So I found this doctor. His name's, shout out to Dr. Ben Childers in Riverside. And he's been a plastic surgeon for like over 30 years. And then the weird thing is, one of my friends who was a client at the time, she was like, you should go to Ben Childers. I used to be because she's an RN. She's like, I used to be an OR, like an operating room, like nurse for him. And I've seen his suturing and he does a really clean job, like suturing and stuff like that. And I was like, that's so weird that you said that, because I Googled like top like plastic surgeons in the Inland Empire. and he popped up. So long story short, I go and I have a consultation with him, and I go in and he has to look at me, obviously, at my armpits, but he notices I have a bra on and a sports bra on top of it, because that's what I used to do sometimes, because like they were so heavy. And so he's like, have you thought of getting a breast? I know. And then he's like, have you thought of getting a breast reduction before? And I was like, that's so weird that you said that, because I've actually contemplated this for a long time. I just didn't think that it was possible for me. And he was like, yeah, he's like, let's look into your insurance. I take your, like, I told him what insurance I had. He's like, I take that insurance. So let's put in the, the request for the authorization. And I was like, no way. So that's how it happened. It was like meant to be. And I look back and I'm like, man, I wish I would have done it sooner, because I suffered so long with like neck and shoulder pain and just the heaviness. Yeah. And to this day, like I still get a recurring knot in my neck just from carrying that much weight on my shoulders. And like I'm 5'2", like I'm not like, tall. So it's just a lot, for my frame. I guess you could say I'm not like tiny, but I'm not like, huge either. So it was just a lot to carry. And so I did it, and I'm glad I did it. But then sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so much smaller than they used to be. Like, it's weird looking at myself in the mirror sometimes.
Did it take a while for you to get used to, number one, the aesthetics of it, of seeing yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Not having big old heavy boobs?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no, yeah, absolutely. Like, so there's this psychological piece of plastic surgery that I think a lot of people don't talk about, which is like the psychological side of plastic surgery, which is you might think that if I do this surgery, I'm going to feel better about myself in some way, which in my case, it was a medical necessity, but it was also aesthetic, because I couldn't fit into things properly that I wanted to fit into, like my prom dress in high school. Like I couldn't fit into bathing suit tops without feeling self-conscious because I'm exploding out of things, like it's that serious. And as a female, you feel like, you're comparing yourself to other people all the time as you grow up. It's just kind of natural. And that was a huge thing I had to overcome within myself. But
always in a negative way?
Yes and no. So like,
or you sometimes like va va voom?
No, because I was never that girl that liked to like flaunt them. My mom kind of raised me to be modest, because she always said your reputation is everything. So if you have a reputation for being, very what's the word, exposing yourself, I don't know how, that was just like her old school way of thinking, which in my mind, like I get it, but it made me very overly self-conscious of the fact that it drew attention to me. So instead of seeing it as like a good thing, I saw it as more of something to be self-conscious of. And as far as the comparison side of things, like I think I definitely would see myself in a more negative light compared to others for a really long time. I did that. So
in general, or just specifically about?
In general.
Okay.
Yeah. So generally, like it took me years to get over like the self-loathing that I had, the low self-esteem that I had, which has been the work I've been doing in therapy, but also like just identifying where that comes from. And for me, it came from just trauma that I had, relationships that I had that brought me down, that made me feel like crap and made me feel less than, like all those things. And then also just like not liking certain things about myself and having to just learn to love myself. And I think, like there's that cliche and that buzzword about like, self-love and all that stuff, but it's true. You do have to love yourself, and you do have to love yourself first, right? So
I think a lot of things that are cliche or stereotypical, it's like they're cliche for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like people say those things for a reason.
Yeah.
And as, maybe like redundant as some of them might sound, it's just like, yeah, you have to love yourself first. And then for you, it was also probably a huge physical benefit to be able to be more comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Like not only on like how you look and how you feel about yourself, but again, back problems, like your neck.
Yeah.
It was probably, have you ever seen Superbad?
I have, but it's been years.
So there's a part where McLovin is buying the alcohol, and they're like, "Oh, there goes, I don't know, Brittany Kersey," Like, dude, she had a breast reduction. He's like, that's like a slap in the face to God. He's like, what do you He's just like, what do you mean? He's just like, no, they totally like reshaped them to make them more supple. He's just like, and now that she can run, she's in the best shape of her life. And he tells me, he's like, I got to get a glimpse of these warlocks. Let's make a move. And then like they run over to like take a look at her.
Oh my gosh. Are you serious? This is really out of the movie?
Yeah.
Oh
Almost
my
word,
God.
Almost word for word.
And the fact that you memorized it was like perfect. Like, I'm like, I feel exposed right now. Like, I feel like someone's talking about me because that's how the reaction I would get from men and women. Oh, why are you doing that? Like, I can't even tell that they're big. You don't ever show them off. Yeah, but you don't know my
Whoever
pain.
said that to you
Yeah.
is lying.
What do you mean?
You could tell you. Now that you mention it, again, maybe I just never noticed it. How long ago did you get it done?
It was in 2021. No, 2022.
Okay. So the last
2
time I
years.
saw you,
Mhm.
which was a few months ago,
Mhm.
it was already, the procedure was already complete.
Right.
Right. So maybe I just didn't notice it then.
Yeah.
But as soon as you said that, like, I do remember you have,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. 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 And
What Dave
I don't
said-
mean
what-
to expose myself like that. Like, I'm making myself vulnerable by talking about it, but I'm not, I know you, so I don't really care. Plus, this is public, but I'm not ashamed of it. Like,
I mean, it's just like all you got to do is look at a picture from 5 years ago and you would know.
yeah, I
you know?
have pictures from 5 years ago and I'm like, holy crap. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Mhm.
There's a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like like you said, it's, I think, like a matter of preference to what was best for you.
Yeah.
Some people might, let's say, disagree with it or not understand why you're doing it. You know, somebody might give you a ribbon until you have great New York boobs from Chappelle's Show. But one of the things I run whenever my body allows me to, and I run with a weighted vest, right? 45-pound weighted vest.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to run without it bouncing, right? And sometimes I'll run with it like this. I'll put my hand to the little thing like this. Other times it'll be like I'm holding little pistols. Put my hands through the things like
You
this.
just put your hand somewhere.
Yeah. Or, you know, I'll hold it like from like its sides.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I was running, and when you're running, you have to use your arms, right? And you can't do that when you're doing this. And I remember thinking, and I'm like, dude, I feel so bad for girls who have big boobs. No matter what bra you buy, no matter what you try to keep them down with, they're bouncing. And it's probably, and again, like, I mean, I'm sure there are some people with 45-pound boobs, but just like, I know that I'm running with the vest and it's probably like exaggerated, but at the same time, I remember like running and it just like bouncing and thinking to myself, like, let's say I'm running with my nieces, and then my nieces have bigger boobs. Again, they're young now, but let's say at some point, just like, man, that'd be unfair. That like I get to run like without that problem and like that ease. Just like, no, like I'm gonna learn how to run with this vest so that I can, let's say, go through the same thing that they're going through. Yeah. But just someone who runs, and I'm like, dude, it must be so difficult.
It is. It was
uncomfortable.
It was. I did long distance running in like middle school, but not in high school. But I just would wear like sports bras, but it still was uncomfortable on top of a bra. So sports bra on top of a bra. And that's how I would kind of keep them like down so they wouldn't bounce as much. But yeah, even with that, it's uncomfortable because the first thing I noticed as soon as I got the surgery, like, because literally after surgery, it's like surgery out, you're out, you know, it's outpatient. So you just go home. Soon as I woke up and was like, you know, coherent, I noticed it was like a weight was taken off, like a huge weight immediately. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what it feels like. And then I asked the surgeon afterwards, like when I did my follow-up, like how much did he take out? And he took out 3 pounds total.
Each?
No, it was like 1.5 pounds each.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So 3 pounds total.
And if you don't mind me asking, at what age did you start to like develop? I
was like from 12 to 13.
That's what I was going to say, because when I was in 7th grade, those girls in my class are like, I dated a girl when I was in 7th grade.
Yeah.
Like, double D's.
Yep.
And I'm just like,
yeah,
you're 12.
Yeah, I already had like probably double D's in like freshman year. Yeah, definitely freshman, sophomore year. And then, yeah, painful.
And you used to run at that time?
I ran in middle school, but
Okay.
then I kind of stopped like once I hit high school because I got into cosmetology and other stuff.
Right.
But yeah, it was, yeah, no, it's
But
hard.
much more comfortable for you now.
Yeah, so much comfortable. Yeah. That's why like I don't hate on people who get surgeries. Whether it be a medical necessity or people who just want to like, you know, aesthetically change their bodies. I feel like it's your body. You have the right to do what you want to do. I think, you know, people do get carried away like with anything. People do extreme things, you know, but like overall, like I don't feel like I have a right to say, oh, that person shouldn't get a Brazilian butt lift or whatever. Like, who am I to say what someone should do if that gives them more confidence and makes them feel good about themselves? But the psychological piece that we were talking about is real because it's even to this day, like I still sometimes, like I even had the thought, like, will I be less attractive if I have smaller boobs? Like that was one of my thoughts. And I was like, that's so stupid. Why would you even think that? You know, like my self-talk was like,
I think it's a natural thought.
yeah, it's a natural thought. And then I was like, but someone who really loves me for me isn't gonna like be like, oh, your boobs need to be like 2 cup size bigger for me to love you. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So it is what it is, you know, and I did it for me and I feel better. And I don't really care about other people's opinions of, you know, the size that would be better for me, just because I had that discussion with my surgeon. I was just like, I want to be like a C cup because that's where I think I'll feel comfortable. And then afterwards, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I should have kept him a little bigger, you know? But then I was like, no, because I look at it like this. I put a lot of my trust in God. And if it was meant to be that my surgeon thought it would be aesthetically better for me to be a little bit bigger than what I had said, I gave him that. I told him, use your discretion. I said I'd personally prefer to be smaller than a D cup because I don't want them to still be big, but C cup would be my ideal. That's in my mind for whatever reason. That just seemed like the ideal cup size. Like it's kind of average, but you know,
that's average.
I don't know. I honestly technically don't know if it's average.
You mean like that's like not
average
too big,
for
not
me.
too small?
We'll just say average for me.
Yeah,
like
not, they're
little
not
bear,
huge.
big bear,
Yeah,
medium bear.
Goldilocks.
Goldilocks.
That's the that's the Goldilocks cup size.
Exactly for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I came up with that idea.
Got to that number.
Yeah. And I kind of left it up to him, and then you know he did his thing, and I trusted his professional opinion on it, and here we are.
Is there any other type of what is it, selective surgery that you would get? Or are you just like, that's the only thing and I did it because it hurt my back and because, you know, it was pushing the breast tissue into my armpit? Or is it just like, oh, I would do other things?
I would do other things when I'm older. Maybe like a little mini facelift or something when I get older, or, you know, something on the face. I would do a lot more to my face probably, skin-wise, texture-wise, lasers, things like that. That's a little bit less invasive. So surgically to my body, not so much. I don't have like any motivation to do anything else other than what I did, because I genuinely feel like, yeah, of course, you know, like we could pick ourselves apart and be like, well, if I had, you know, less cellulite here, or if I can get this lipo, that'd be nice. But like to actually do it, no. What about you? Have you ever thought of doing? I mean, guys don't really do anything, but
I know men who, well, I don't know if you would consider it necessarily surgery, but I know men who have done like Botox and things like that.
Oh yeah, that's not surgery.
Would
you do Botox?
Would I? No.
No.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Like, this is me.
Yeah.
This is who I am. Like, I've had these wrinkles on my little 3 head. Because I'm always like this.
Yeah.
And I'm always...
Makes you. Yeah.
Lifting on my eyebrows or doing dumb little gestures. But no, I don't... For me, I feel the same way. It's just like, whatever you want. Whatever makes you feel good about yourself. And there's certain things where you can't change them about yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Other things, maybe you can, right? You can try to squat and do lunges and then grow your butt that way. And then there's other things where you just can't. I can't change, I don't know, say some people that do like the chin or like the jaw, or there's certain things that you're not going to be able to change on your own naturally. And then if it makes you feel good, by all means, like whatever you need to feel good about yourself, whatever gives you confidence.
Yeah.
Independent of what it is. But for me, again, I don't know what I'm going to look like when I'm older. I've done the Snapchat filters. I'm going to look exactly like my mom.
Yeah,
But
that's funny.
to me, that's who I am. It's if I'm going to have wrinkles, I'm going to have wrinkles.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a different, well, I think it depends on the industry you're into. Like if you talk to people that are in the entertainment industry, a lot of men feel like the pressure to like hold
Stay
up
young.
their youth and stuff. Yeah. But generally, you know, men don't have that kind of pressure to keep up the youth, you know?
And some of it, I think, is societal pressure, or maybe has to do with your job and what you do for a living. And other times it's people want to hold on to how they look.
Yeah.
And again, that's fine. It's kind of like what you said, though. It's like when people go maybe overboard.
Mhm.
For me, try to make it look as natural as possible.
Yeah.
Right? Then when you start getting into, it's like, even there's times where like you can tell someone's got it done, but it looks, natural, or it looks good.
Yeah.
Because there's other times where it's like, but again, to each their own. Whatever's going to make you feel good about yourself, whatever's going to give you confidence. I have a few friends that have gotten like the rhinoplasty, which is a nose job for people who don't know the medical term. Has nothing to do with Rogelio, my rhino.
Yeah.
And then I remember telling my friend, I was just like, you don't need it at all, like in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then she showed me a picture, and I was just like, oh, maybe I just never noticed it.
Yeah. Well, because I think something that I realized is that we see somebody like a friend or someone we know who has a feature that's maybe prominent to them, but not to us because we don't see it every day. And it could be an insecurity that they have, but we don't see it that way because it's just part of who they are. And then when they point it out, it's like, oh, okay, now I see what you mean. But like, I just see that as you being, that's just you.
Correct.
Like I have friends that, I had a couple different friends actually that never had braces. So they had, more on the crooked side of teeth. And I had braces. So I look at teeth, but like, I don't judge, it's just, okay, I had braces. So I pay attention to that. And then you see somebody that has veneers and you're like, holy crap, their teeth are perfect. And they like didn't have braces. They just got veneers. And it's like, then you start thinking, oh, well, I wonder how I would look with veneers. And then it's like that comparison thing starts to creep in sometimes with those things. But going back to what you said, like you just got to do what makes you happy, and I think people do take it, especially nowadays, people take it to the extreme with a lot of the surgery. It's like it becomes redundant and excessive. It's like, how much more do you need to do to feel like you've arrived? And I think that's where, like body dysmorphia comes into play.
I mean, I think it's alongside of what you were talking about tattoos. They say surgeries can be addicting, right? Just like, well, I changed this. Like, let me change that. Let me do, something else. I have I think the second to the last podcast that I did, my friend, it's called Glam Body Sculpting, right? So they do like fat removal, they do vagina tightening, they do all kinds of different stuff, right? And she was telling me like some people like, it's like, no, like you can't do anymore. Like we have to like kind of like cut certain people off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then with that, I know that there's maybe some people who might say it's like you're cheating for a better body, right? Like a BBL or like lipo or, whatever it is that people like get done. So it's like, that's a way to look at it. But sometimes it could be the catalyst to motivate somebody to get into shape. Right?
Exactly.
It's like you just, maybe you've tried and you failed and you failed and you failed. And like, you haven't seen the results that you've seen or as quickly as you wanted. Sometimes people see results and then that's what motivates you to keep on going.
Yeah.
But for other people, sometimes because of discipline or whatever it may be, you might not be able to get to those results quick enough or as soon as you would like to. So that, she was telling me, it's like, you can't just get that and you're good to go. You still have to mind your diet. You still have to do things. It's an assistance, right? Or you've gotten as far as you can on your own.
Yeah.
You've plateaued.
Yeah.
And then this is going to get you to where you want to be. So I think it's kind of like perspective on how you look at things. And again, it's like, it ain't me. Whatever you need, again, it's not affecting me.
Yeah. And this crap is expensive. Like if it's not a medical necessity and you're getting a lot of these procedures done and you're paying out of pocket, that's what amazes me. I'm like, how do people afford this stuff? Because it's so expensive. Plastic surgery is so expensive. Like, luckily my insurance covered my breast reduction because it would have been probably about $15,000 around there, probably, you know? And so imagine, somebody who's addicted to plastic surgery, how expensive that would be. But it's like a drug habit. There's no limit to how much you'll spend for
you
what
gonna make it work.
Yeah.
But it's, she was even a long time ago, she was looking for kind of like a belly fat reduction thing or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I think she asked me to repost it
Belly fat reduction.
or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then she was just like, would you do it? She's like, it's like a free procedure. She's just like, and I was like, man, I don't care. She's like, really? I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like, does it work?
Yeah.
And then like, I'm not self-conscious about it.
Yeah.
Or about like being a man and like going to get it done. It's just
No,
like,
that's
it'll help
cool.
you out. Cause she was like, she wanted more men, to like promote and stuff like that. Cause usually it's like, it's women.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, sure. Like there was a kind of, not like a requirement. You couldn't have like a big old like belly, or you couldn't be obviously like have abs. It wouldn't work.
Right.
But, and I'm just like, this little guy right here.
Yeah. A little pooch.
Yeah. But I don't know, something with like scheduling didn't end up doing it or anything like that. But just like, yeah, I'll try it. You're going to put a little jelly on me. You're going to do whatever it is. Does it hurt? And I was just like, I think we were going to a tattoo convention. And I was just like, will I be able, because, my tattoo artist has done a lot of my work that he was going to be showing. And I was like, is it going to affect, like, can I get on stage with my shirt off? She's like, yeah. She's like, you'll look leaner. She's like, in like that same day.
Wow.
And then I was just like,
I wouldn't mind trying something like that too. Yeah. Why not? Like just for fun.
Yeah. Just to see what it is.
Yeah.
I'll try something out.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. I don't see anything wrong with it. Again, I think it's less common for men to do certain things.
Right.
I went to TJ, I think it was like in December. My friend went to go look at stem cells, right? For her shoulder. Ow. But sorry, I have really bad shoulders. And sometimes when I make movements, it hurts.
Yeah.
But we were like at like a medical plaza. And then I think it was like his aunt or uncle was getting some like dental work done. So we're like in this lobby and it's like everything, right? And the nurse comes up and she's like, you're getting the Botox? And I was like, me? And I was like, is this her way of trying to tell me I need Botox?
How do you say that in Spanish?
Botox. Same thing. Yeah. And then I was just like, no. And then she's like, well, you're getting the IV? And I was just like, I'm not getting anything.
I'm not getting anything, lady. Leave me alone.
And then, and my friend's just like, well, he says, you want to do an IV? And I was like, sure. And, they have different like cocktail or IVs or whatever. But then when we went upstairs and we were waiting for his uncle, they were, like somebody said somebody was getting Botox. And then I was just like, are you getting Botox? And he's like, I was thinking about it. And then he's just like, but he's like, it doesn't work for me. And I was just like, oh, okay. So then once they couldn't really like convince him, they get the super hot doctor lady to come over and, kind of try to convince you. Yeah.
That's insane.
And then she started talking and he was like, it's just not really going to work for me. He's just like, I work out a lot. He's just like, so
metabolizes it too quickly.
The sweat and then like if you're straining and making faces. And so it lasts a smaller amount of time.
Yeah.
Right.
I get Botox, so I know.
And the lady was asking, he's just like, I've done it before. He's like, it just doesn't really work for me. And the girl's just like, well, do you know what kind of Botox? And, they're obviously trying to make their like sale.
Yeah.
But again, man, get Botox or filler or I don't
I've never done filler, but I've done Botox.
Yeah.
My forehead and crow's feet.
And he knew what I needed or didn't need it. Cause he's like, cause I kept on telling him, joking around, cause the girl was very pretty. And I was like, you should just do it. And he's just like, no, he's like, because then I'm going to have to come back in 6 weeks. And I was like, we'll come back.
6 weeks?
Whatever
That's
it
so
was.
soon.
8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it was.
It's supposed to
right?
last like 3 months at least.
Whatever it was. Pick a number, right? But he kept on, well, that was his thing. He's like, I don't want to have to come back in
Right.
3
You have
months.
to keep coming back. Yeah.
Or whatever it was. And I was
Mhm.
like, we'll come back. I'll gladly come back to see her. And then he was just like, nah, because of this. And I was like, you should do it. Just kept on like joking around, egging him on.
Yeah. And he was like not having it.
And he's just like, why don't you do it? And then I was just like, oh. He's like, but you need, I think it's called filler. Is it filler? Or Botox?
Botox paralyzes the muscle. And filler is like more for like when you're trying to fill an area. So like
Yeah.
sometimes they'll do filler underneath your eyes, which is a really like risky spot to do it for dark circles and things like that, or hollowness. You'll see it in the cheekbones, other areas. I don't know everything about fillers, but
So I think that's the one that I think they would say like that I needed again for the wrinkles that
Botox, not filler, Botox.
sure,
Yeah.
one of them.
Well, you can't do filler in the lines. Like if you have deep lines, you can't do filler.
Okay.
So yeah,
Botox.
it was Botox for sure.
Make
Mhm.
my little 3 head smooth.
Yeah.
But
They wanted you to be frozen. No expression.
no, I
not-
can't have that. I'm a man of 1,000 faces.
Yeah, exactly. So for somebody who, it's like that James Dean picture. There's lines.
Mhm. That's like me.
Yeah, it adds
It's-
character.
I don't have to do anything for you to be able to see these lines. I've had them since I was in high school. Again,
Yeah.
because I'm always like this.
Very expressional. Yeah.
Mhm.
Is that a word? Expressional?
Expressive.
Expressive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why like the nurse who does my Botox, she was like, we could do your chin because I have like the little
Button?
mm,
Oh, uh-huh.
she calls it like the orange peel. So like you I guess bunch up your chin. So she was saying we could paralyze the muscles in this so it doesn't do that as much. I was like, oh, hold off for now.
So that's what I mean. Like, again, to each their own, but I'm not trying to paralyze anything. Right? For me, on me. Somebody
Yeah.
else wants to do it? Sure, go ahead.
Right.
But for me, I'm not trying to paralyze or anything like that.
Yeah, it does. It
But
paralyzes the muscle.
It's all a part of aesthetics and how you present yourself.
Mhm.
And it's like let's say, an amped up version of any other type of things that people do.
Yeah.
It's like some people do their eyebrows. Some
Yeah.
don't. It's part of how...
I've done that too.
What do you mean?
I've done my eyebrows. I've
Like-
had them microbladed.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's cosmetic things, it's part of your appearance and how you look, and how you
Yeah.
look can translate into how you feel. And if
Mhm.
it gives you, again, like confidence and makes you feel good about yourself, look good, feel good,
Yeah.
get it
is
done.
what it is. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I don't know.
Botox?
Yeah, I've had Botox. I did.
Thumbs up or thumbs down for Botox?
Oh, thumbs up for sure.
Thumbs
It
up.
makes me feel better. I feel more awake. I feel like I don't look as much tired. It's just like it gives
Oh.
me like
Hold
a
on.
less
Okay,
tired
the
look.
appearance of being more awake?
Yes.
I thought you meant like, it wakes me up.
No, not like that. It just like it gives me like just more of a rested look. And when I don't have it, I feel like I look more tired. And it's probably, a mental thing too. You just feel like, oh, I did something for me,
Mm-hmm.
I had a facial earlier today.
Mhm.
I almost said I couldn't do this because I wanted to keep makeup off my face the rest of the day, but I wanted to get, for us to do this. And so, yeah, things like facials and Botox and, getting your hair done and stuff like that. Like, I think it's kind of necessary for some people to feel good, to feel like they're providing some type of self-care and pampering to themselves,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I was just talking to somebody about this the other day who's a makeup artist, hashtag Mua. And to me, that's an art form, right?
Mhm.
Like, you are literally painting on a face.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with different types of skin and what colors are going to go with their complexion and what
Mhm.
products. And it's something that maybe gets overlooked. I think it's a very important job
Mhm.
because of what you can help provide somebody,
Yeah.
which is that confidence.
For sure.
Like,
Yeah.
not everybody's well versed enough to know how much blush or I don't know, eyeliner or whatever. You're
Yeah.
gonna blend stuff, you're gonna contour someone's face, and you're gonna give that same face, but it's gonna look way different. It's gonna look more, I was gonna say aerodynamic. It's gonna look more
Aerodynamic.
what would it be?
I don't know. What's the word? I don't know what word you're looking
More
for.
angles, like when you do the like contour, you're giving
structure.
Yeah, you're gonna give it more structure, dimension, all that good stuff, right?
Yeah.
To pick one of those synonyms.
Yeah, exactly.
That someone might not be able to do for themselves.
Right.
Right. And then you go to a place, you go to the mall, or when you're going to have the most important day of your life, which is your wedding. For most women, it's going to be the most important day of your life.
Yeah.
And you're going to feel, and you're going to look like $1 million. You're going to look and feel good.
Right.
So makeup artists, in my opinion, like 100%, you're an artist. What you're doing is an art form.
Mm-hmm.
But more so is you are providing that confidence and that ability to make someone feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
And hair as well. Again, you've been in, would you call it cosmetology, beautician?
Yeah. So I would,
Yeah,
I would say what you're saying really hits a nail on the head when it comes to providing a service, for sure. Because, I was a hairstylist for 18 years, and then I retired like last year. I like saying retired. Everyone's like, wait, how old are you? It's because I got started when I was like 16, and I got licensed at 17. So starting really young in that industry, like that was the most gratifying thing of it, was being able to make someone feel good. Because like, honestly, yeah, it's money. You're bringing money in doing it, but it's more than that. Like, people are trusting you with their hair, and that's a big deal. Like, I don't trust anyone with my hair, just anyone with my hair. I don't trust anyone with just like, cutting my hair. Like, no one's perfect. No one's going to do a perfect job, but like, you trust your hairstylist, you trust your makeup artist to like make you look good and to make you feel like confident. So it's a huge, it's an important job. And like, I think it's a great profession. But for me, I just got like physically like tired, exhausted from doing it all day. Yeah. I just was like extremely that. And then I worked for MAC for MAC Cosmetics off and on because I was a freelancer. Huh? What?
I said Big Mac? But
no.
I was kidding.
Makeup Art Cosmetics. I did that for a while. You know this already, but like,
what is it called?
Makeup Art Cosmetics is what it stands for. Yeah. Yeah.
It's an acronym?
Yep, it is.
I didn't know that.
A lot of people didn't know that. Yeah. So yeah, that gave me the experience of doing makeup on different, like you said, textures, skin tones, and it was a great experience. Like, I'll always be grateful for the profession of cosmetology because it's provided for me. Like, I was able to pay my bills, but like more than that, it was able to give me that experience of like making people feel good. And to this day, like, I still do my mom's hair. I still do my brother's hair. If somebody wants their makeup done, I'll do it more so like for fun. It's not like something I do for money anymore necessarily. It's more just something I do for fun now and on the side, just here and there. I don't have the energy for it anymore. I burnt out.
I think that happens in a lot of professions, independent of what it is. I have a friend who's a physical therapist, and she provides relief to people. Like my mom with all her ailments, or my brother, or even me with like my shoulder, my back, stuff like that. She has, for someone who hasn't been able to sleep for 6 months, and then she gets her little paws on you. And then
you haven't been able to sleep?
Not me personally, but there have been times.
Oh, okay.
Most recently, I've had a lot of family visit, and I'll let them stay in my room. I don't mind sleeping on the couch. I mean, I have another room with like the office, but I like eating snacks and watching movies. So sometimes I fall asleep downstairs.
Yeah.
And then if I sleep wrong, I've sent her videos, and I'm like,
as
far as I can go to the left, as far as I can go to the right.
Yeah.
But she got burnt out from it. It's something that she did for a really long time, and it's something that she enjoyed.
Yeah.
And then she transitioned into another job.
Yeah.
And then she would do it. The first day I met her, I was like, oh, my back hurts. And she's like, oh, what's wrong? I was like, my back hurts. She's like, from what? I was like, life.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know, like it just hurts. And she's like, well, I used to do physical therapy. If you want me to look at it,
Yeah.
fix me right up. And
See, I
was
need
just
to
like,
see this girl because I have this knot that keeps coming back in my
Mhm.
neck. And it's because, again, the heavy chest and then doing
Right.
hair for so many years.
Right.
Having my arms up like this, doing haircuts and blow dries and, takes a toll.
It does.
And, I'm 36 now and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, ouch. I don't know what else to say.
It's-
I have like a foam roller. I like roll on my foam roller.
I have a foam roller. I have a lacrosse ball. I have bands. I have all kinds of stuff.
I have a gun too.
Yeah.
Like a massage gun. And then I get a massage once a month too. That's the other pampering that I do for myself.
And that I think it's so needed for people to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, people learn to live with pain.
Yeah.
And then you end up compensating.
Mm-hmm.
Or you just don't know that you're in pain. Because sometimes, again, I knew that she transitioned out of it. So I never wanted to abuse our friendship or, any,
right.
But sometimes we'd be like hanging out and she would like grab me like that. She'd be like, dude, like your traps are super tight.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, they feel normal to me. And she would tell me like, why don't you, and she would do like the cupping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right. And she's like, why don't you tell me? And I'm like, because I don't know. Like, again, I think you just learn to live with pain.
Right.
And then she would go on like my shoulder and she's like, take your shirt off. Like, I got to cup your back. I got to do all these different things.
Mm-hmm.
But more recently, she like really like transitioned out of it. Like one time her friend was like, hey, like my knee hurts. You think you could take a look at it? And she was like, no.
Yeah, you get to a point where you have to say no because you're just that done. And it's okay. It's okay to change careers and change, your mind about things. People make up their mind about what they see you as. So like people get used to seeing you in a certain position for years, doing the same thing for years. And when you step out of that, a lot of times people can't catch up. And it's hard to accept.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait, what do you mean you're switching careers? What are you going to do? Like, I need you. I had several clients that were like not having it. Like they were like, no, like I don't trust anyone else. Like you don't understand. Like I can't, I won't. No. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like I'm not going to do this anymore. Like I really don't, I can't for different factors. And eventually people are like, okay, I understand. Like, but it takes time because people get comfortable with you in whatever you're doing for them. If you're providing a service for them. And that transition is not easy especially because there's a part of you that will always have love for that. Mm-hmm. Like I'm sure she loves that. She loves to make people feel better, But
yeah, exactly. Like, so she would, do it. I wouldn't ask her a lot of times because again, I know that you don't want to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. Most recently she came, over, her and her boyfriend came to the house. She made dinner for my parents.
Oh, that's so nice.
She's a super nice person. Mm-hmm. And she's talking to my mom and, my mom has a lot of ailments. And she's like, oh, like, how you doing? And my mom's like, also doesn't want to be like,
I'm hurting.
I need those paws.
Yeah.
And my mom's just like, no, like, I'm okay. And then, her and her boyfriend, or her boyfriend and I were outside. We were like grilling the meat. Mm-hmm. And then I came back in. She's just like, I'm going to cup you today. And I was like, oh, fuck, thank God. She's like, I'm going to come out of retirement for you. And I was like, thank God.
Yeah, try not to show it. You're like,
yeah,
so
no,
happy.
I did.
Like, yes.
I was just like, hell yeah. But it's that part where, like you said, sometimes even though you might have enjoyed it and really enjoyed it, and the things that come along with it, the joy that you can provide. Again, in her case, it's the relief, the physical relief that she can provide to people. Yeah. For you, it's like the confidence building, but I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to transition into something else.
Yeah.
And you transitioned into something else.
Yeah.
What is that something else? Because I know last time we spoke, it was...
I had a temporary job in between this job because I had taken a break from... So I always had my foot like half in doing hair and makeup and half out, trying to transition out of it for like the last few years. Mm-hmm. There were lots of things that came up between like the time that I decided I want to kind of like transition out of the field, which was like 2017. I was like, oh, you know what? I want to start exploring a different side of myself. Like I love psychology. I love mental health. And I was like, how am I going to do this? Like, it's not an easy thing to walk away from something that you do like second nature into something that's like completely foreign to you, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. So the transition began in 2017 with the psych tech program. So that happened, and I graduated in 2018. Yes.
What's a psych tech?
Oh, okay.
And the reason that I was laughing
Yeah.
before is I was gonna say, it's just like, were you like Adam Sandler and like you don't mess with the Zohan?
I
You
don't. Oh,
But yeah, it's a
yeah.
movie.
I'm not a movie person, so I don't really know.
You're not gonna get all the reels that I'm gonna make out of this then. But
I'm
so
gonna have
what's
to watch that movie because I don't know.
it's one of those dumb funny movies.
Okay.
Like
Adam Sandler. Just
exactly.
kidding.
Yeah. So what's a psych tech?
So a psych tech is basically it's like a licensed vocational nurse, but for mental health. So that's like the best way to sum it up.
Okay.
It's not like, I don't know how to explain it. So basically you work with like people with like mental issues, like psychiatric disorders or developmental disabilities. You can kind of work in like a psych hospital. You can work in an intensive outpatient facility. You can work in a
Gotcha.
crisis unit.
You're a nurse for psychiatrics.
Yeah, basically. That's what it is.
Okay.
They call the position's often called a med nurse too,
Okay.
because you pass meds.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then now you're
So that's what I'm transitioning back into. So
okay.
I was like still one foot into like skincare, hair care, makeup. And now I'm like out of that entirely now work wise. And I'm going back into working in mental health. So this job that I'm going to be having is more for like children and adolescents with mental health issues. So that's the avenue I'm taking next.
Like behavioral?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It'll be for kids that are in the foster care system or that like have caregivers through the foster care system, or it'll be like group homes going to help out. Like it depends on the basically the program that's needed. So it's just working with psychiatrists, dealing with medications for these like kids that need it. And like that kind of, it's basically what it is right now.
And the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist is that the psychiatrist can prescribe medication, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is that the only difference?
That's the main difference. And I would say that psychiatrists, I mean, there are lots of psychiatrists that do therapy, but a psychologist focuses more on doing the therapeutic side of things. If you were like when you get into the field, you kind of figure this out. It's not that a psychiatrist doesn't do therapy, because they absolutely do,
Mhm.
but a psychologist is more, that's like more their thing, like the diagnoses and, you know.
And psychologists and therapists, same?
Psychologist is a higher level of education. So like a psychologist has like a PsyD. They call it like a doctorate in psychology.
And then a therapist.
And a therapist is a master's degree level.
Gotcha.
So it's like licensed marriage and family therapist. Even a licensed clinical social worker is considered a therapist. So yeah.
Gotcha.
But like I've worked with mainly therapists and psychiatrists, and the psychiatrists are the ones that are prescribing the medications. And yeah, so it's interesting working with doctors, and the medical field is tough. You know, it's not as glamorous as people try to make it look.
People try to make it look glamorous?
I think there's people in social media that make nursing and being a doctor and stuff glamorous. Like, because social media does that. There's people that take a profession and they try to make it seem like it's a piece of cake to be in it, when in reality, it's really tough being in the medical field at all. Like, anyone that tries to tell you it's a piece of cake, they're lying.
I don't think anybody says that. Or at least the people that I know in the medical field.
Yeah. Well, the authentic ones will tell you that it's not easy. But there's people out there that, of course, that are not always authentic about how hard it could be. Mm-hmm. From what I've seen.
Yeah.
And I'm just more, like, I got to a point where I was sick and tired of a lot of the staff that I worked with. Like, and I had to look at myself and my own triggers. Like, that's kind of what made me want to get therapy, because I was like, I'm being triggered by so much crap in this field. Like, not from so much from patients, but like from people that I work with. And I think what it is there's just like this hierarchy. Like, you're asking me, like, okay, so what does a psychiatrist do? What does a psychologist do? What does a therapist do? What does a nurse do? You know, and it's like there's this hierarchy, and there's people that get to the top and they have this like God complex where they think they're like a god, and everyone should just like kiss their ass because they have this license of whatever sort it is that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that like if you're somebody who's more authentic and more empathetic or empathic, whatever, however you want to say it, like you, it's hard. Like it was hard for me to be around people that like are egotistical and, you know, think that they're better because they have this license and you have that license. And then there's even people that are less educated than you that get triggered because you're more educated than them. And it's like it becomes this weird competition of like who has a higher degree, who has more education, and who's more qualified to do whatever it is. And it's like, I guess that's everywhere, but I had came from an industry that was like, you have the same license. We either all have a cosmetology license or you're a makeup artist, you don't have a cosmetology license, but you're really good at makeup, so it doesn't matter. You don't need to have a license to be a makeup artist. So yeah, there's competition in that industry, but there's a lot of competition and egos in the medical field too. And it was just a weird transition for me, and it was hard because I was going through personal stuff too with like my family and stuff, like different things changing in my family, moving pieces with my family dynamics, eliminating a lot of toxic people out of my life at the time, that it was just so many things happening at once that I was like, who am I? Like, what am I going to do now? I don't know where I'm like, where do I fit? Because I feel like I used to fit in this field, but I don't feel like I fit in this field anymore, you know, cosmetology. It's not that I didn't fit, but I didn't want to do it anymore. And then it was like, okay, but I want to do this new thing, but it challenged me so much on so many levels that I had to kind of take a step back and be like, okay, what do I want to do? Why am I doing it? And am I ready to take on the challenges that come with doing it?
Good questions to ask yourself.
And so once I got clear on my motivation for doing it, it wasn't so much to prove anything to anyone else. Sorry, I could talk a lot.
What's your motivation for it?
It really comes down to focusing on the person or the people that you're helping and less so on the people that you have to work with or the situations that might come up with the personalities that you have to work with. So like, for example, when I was doing hair, I could focus on the client and I didn't care if there was all this drama happening in the salon or whatever was going on because I was like focused on my client. And that's kind of what it is when you get into the medical field. You have to kind of learn to ignore the noise around you and whatever's happening, personalities, egos that are around you, and just focus in on who you're helping, which is the patient or the people that you're serving. And when you get focused on like that, it makes it a lot easier than just ignore the noise. Like stop focusing on what everyone else is doing, what they think about you, how they feel about you, because that was like a big focus for me before. Again, going back to like my own trauma that I had to work on was like people pleasing and wanting to be liked and accepted and feeling like crap if someone didn't like me or didn't say hi or, you know, stupid crap that like wasn't important, but it was like stuff I had to like work on on myself. So that's kind of how that whole thing played out.
Do you feel like therapy is helping you, obviously in your personal life, but probably in your professional life, being able to deal with certain, I think, factors of what might make a work environment, I wouldn't necessarily say hostile, but like you said, all the noise that comes with the new job that you have, therapy is helping you be able to kind of mitigate certain things?
Yeah, for sure. There's like responses that we have, you know, to things that come up. And some people call it triggers. That's kind of a buzzword too. It's not necessarily that you're triggered by everything necessarily, but it's like, I don't know. It's just learning to not care so much about what everyone else thinks. And when you go to therapy, you realize that, yeah, you should care about what people think, but the people that really matter to you, not necessarily everybody that's in your life or where you work or whatever. Also, realizing that not everybody is your friend. Like, you know, that was something that I guess I was kind of naive. Growing up, I just always was like nice to people and warm, and like I thought everybody should like me. And if they didn't, I would be like, why don't they like me? And so it's like this inner child that like wants to be accepted. And when you go to trauma, it forces you to look at that inner child. And that inner child has all these needs that were either met or not met in childhood. And as we age, we still have those inner child needs that maybe were met or not met. And when you identify what you were missing as a child, then you can learn to parentify yourself, basically. Learn to be your own comforter, your own like parent, I guess you could say, as an adult. So whatever was missing in childhood, you kind of get to the core of that trauma, whatever issues came up, the father wound, mother wound, like whatever you might have going on from maybe abandonment or neglect or abuse, whatever. Then once you kind of work through that, then you're able to see like, okay, yeah.
How do you work through that?
So I went through EMDR, which is like a trauma therapy. I can't think of the actual definition. We could Google it. It's like eye movement, desensitization, something, whatever. Basically, it's the short answer is working through trauma with somebody who's a trauma specialist. So that helped.
So how do you work through it though? What, like, is there exercises? Is there things that you do? Like, what's the process of working through like you said, your inner child, the needs, because all childs have needs, love, affection, safety, things like that. And then when you're a child and you didn't get those things, you grow into an adult that didn't get those things.
Right.
So you first probably identify them, I assume.
Yeah.
Right.
So you kind of identify what you were missing and those emotions that came up when that happened.
How do you identify it?
So the way that you identify is you really just talk about it. Like you just share with your therapist like your experience. And then they ask questions that get you to open up about, okay, so what was that like for you? Oh, that must have been hard. Can you tell me what that felt like? And with identifying how that made you feel, you're able to kind of find the wound. Do you know what I mean? Once you find the wound,
put salt on it. I'm kidding.
No. Just throw some alcohol on there. Yeah. So like once you find the wound, then you're able to start to see like, okay, how is this affecting me now? You know what I mean? So that's what I started to realize was like, okay, this happened with my dad. These family members were this way. And then I was able to see like, okay, that hurt. Like, and I wasn't able to articulate a lot of the things that I experienced when I was a kid because it wasn't like I didn't grow up in a household where it was like, let's talk about your feelings. And I think that we, now it's more accepted to like talk about your feelings and it's embraced and, it's not so stigmatized anymore. But, when I was younger, it wasn't like, hey, mom, like I feel like shit right now or I'm sad. Like, what do I do? It's like, oh, you're fine. You'll get over it, Not to make my mom sound like she was insensitive. I just think that that's just, they didn't know how to like deal with that kind of stuff then,
Yeah, it wasn't commonplace. Yeah, I think, like you said, now it's more top of mind, more like socially acceptable and more people doing work either on themselves through therapy and then, vis-a-vis to their kids and allowing them to be like a little bit more open. But in certain, let's say, age groups, boomers, or in certain cultures or certain things, it's like, don't talk about your feelings.
Yeah. Like, you don't put your business out there like that.
You're a man, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, you deal with it.
Cry.
Like, you're strong. You're like, you don't cry. Like, these are what they felt was the appropriate or like the normal way to handle certain things.
Yeah. And I like suppressed a lot of like my emotions and it caused me to have a lot of anxiety and depression for a long time. And I became the biggest crybaby. Like, I just cried so much. And what I realized was that I was just letting out years and years of just like suppressed sadness that I never was able to articulate. It's that simple sometimes.
So after you identify what those certain traumas or wounds were, your therapist gives you, I'm assuming, tools to kind of...
Yeah, so she had like some idea. She used a method with EMDR where you kind of identify your like basically like your safe people that you're going to have in your head to think of when you're having these emotions. It's kind of complicated, but basically, you know, like who's somebody that you can trust.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Who's somebody that you can trust with, like, you know, if you're having a hard day, you would like basically envision like these people that you would go to like in your mind. And for me, it's like my faith is a big thing. People that I would listen to on YouTube that like were like pastors that I liked. Like I would just think of these people that made me feel better. And that was part of the EMDR method of doing things. There's so many different methodologies or whatever modalities for like therapy. This is just one. But I also did talk therapy where I would just talk about everything. And
So do you just envision that person, and then is that supposed to provide like a comfort for you? Or is it kind of like, let's say I figured something out within myself. Do I just close my eyes and say, what would Joe Rogan do right now? Or what is it like?
No, for me, it was like I needed somebody to open up to and like share things with, because I didn't have that. I didn't have very many safe people I felt I could talk to. And part of that was because I had cut off a lot of people out of my life. I had a lot of people in my life, family members included, who I realized were not healthy for me to be around, and I had to cut them out of my life entirely. And that's kind of one of those things people are like, you can't cut off your family. Like that's
Yes,
your
you can.
blood. And you can, right? You
Yeah,
agree?
you can.
Yeah.
I'll cut on my brother for a bit. It's like at that point it was necessary. It was necessary for me and my well-being, and it was necessary for him.
Exactly.
And then or in this case, he did what he needed to do, and then we're back.
That's great.
And
You set a boundary.
Yeah, it was just like, yeah, no, I'm good. Like, it was never like a complete, I didn't have to completely cut him off. Right? I would see him, what's up? You know, cordial, hello. But besides that,
there was no like, yeah, you needed to create some distance there.
Yeah. And it was something that I felt like he needed as much as I did. Just like, you're not the same when you're drinking. So I'm like, until you get better, it's just like, then we can, you know, reestablish ourselves. But for the time being, again, my brother, love you. I was going to care for you and your well-being. But at the same time, it's just like, I got to keep you at a distance right now. And that's what ended up working. And some people don't have, I don't know if it's like an outlook where it's just like, no, like it's family. Like, you can't do that. It's just like, no, yeah, I can. Like, just because someone's family doesn't mean that they're good for you.
Right.
Just because you've known someone like a long time doesn't mean that they're good for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's to your detriment, maintaining relationships that you feel that you need to be loyal to.
Absolutely. And that's what I had to learn. And when I did that, then it was like, who do I have? Like, who do I have left? And I didn't want to share some of the stuff that I was experiencing with my immediate family. Some of it, I just needed to talk to somebody who was out of the picture. And that was really the main motivation was like, I need a professional who can help me process what I'm experiencing, because I've gone too far and I've gone too long dealing with these things by myself and feeling like I have to basically work through it by myself. Like, there's no amount of friends you have. There's no amount of money you have. There's no amount of anything that you can have materially outside of yourself that's going to make you feel better when you have all these emotions and feelings that you don't know how to process, and you don't feel like you can talk to somebody who would really understand. And that's what therapy did for me. It made me realize that I have a safe person I could talk to who's not going to judge me. I can say anything I want to say about anyone in my life I want to say it about, and they're not going to say, oh, you can't say that about that person. That's your so-and-so. That's your blood. You can't do that. No, absolutely not. It's a safe place to open up. That's the bottom line for me. Because at the end of the day, like, I'm going to take a break from therapy pretty soon, and I need a little break from it. But if I want to go back, I can. And that makes me feel good because it makes me feel safe. Like, there's somebody out there I could talk to who's going to be like, yeah, we'll pick up where we left off. Like, what's new with you? You know? And it's all good. You know, there's no judgment. It's a judgment-free zone, and it's a safe place to just like be vulnerable, cry, ugly cry, laugh, cuss, do whatever you need to do, get it out, and then move on, you know, and move forward. That's the whole point. We're not trying to wallow in self-pity. We're not trying to, you know, be a victim. That's not what it is. But we do need to identify what's happened, and we need to acknowledge it and respect that, yeah, that did happen to you, and you have a right to feel the way you felt. And if you're not going to get that validation from the people that did it to you, because they're probably not going to give you that validation, someone else can give you that validation and say, no, what you felt was real, and that's okay. And you have every right to do whatever you need to do to protect yourself. Like, I'm all for protecting my mental and emotional health, because to me, that's everything. Like, if you don't have that, you're screwed. Life is hard enough as it is. If you have people in your life that are making you feel like shit, cut them off. Like, it's not worth your mental and emotional health going downhill because you want to stay close to somebody who you've known forever, because they're blood. Who cares if they're blood? Sometimes blood is the worst. Speaking from experience, I've had some crazy stuff happen. I've had, you know, I've been made to feel like crap from family. So I was just like, no, why do I feel like I need to like hold on to these people? They don't even care if I exist. They don't even care if I'm doing okay, you know? And it's painful. Like, it's hard to accept that, but like, it is what it is. You know, we all have cards we're dealt with in life, right? So
it's, so two things. I think therapy, what I've equated it to, it's like you have a professional friend is what it is. Because when you're going through something, it's something that I've said many a times before, and it's something that my mom said. It's like human beings, one of their greatest needs is to be heard, right? And that all goes with effective communication. And there are, I think it's 9 or 10 ineffective ways of communicating, which is comparing, right? Like, you tell me something, it's just like, well, when this happened, you know, it's just like comparing or trying to not validate someone or trying to give advice. And your friends have the best intentions. They're your friends. They care for you, and they're doing what they think is best. But when you're communicating effectively, and you're telling me something, and you tell me when something happens, it's like, oh, so this made you feel this way. Or when this, so you mirror questions and you do certain things. And what a therapist does is they're not there to fix your life. They're not there to do anything besides help you figure things out on your own through effective questioning. Oh, so when you say this, it means that, or this makes you feel this way, and how did that make you feel? And then they're just asking you questions, and then you're unraveling things on your own, and then maybe even hearing yourself say certain things is just like certain things click.
Yeah.
But they're not telling you anything. They're mostly asking questions. That's what a therapist does. And then they're helping you figure things out on your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you said, with like therapy, it's a judgment-free zone. But if you tell your friends certain things, it might be about somebody that they know. It might even be about them, or it might be certain things where they don't know how to handle or how to process it because they're not professionals. They're not trained in effective listening or communication, which is, again, what I think therapists are very well trained at and in doing. And then
the good ones.
And then they can help you provide maybe some insight if you ask for an opinion or if you ask for advice, or again, they just give you a different perspective on things that you might not be able to see yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you don't see the elephant because you're too close to it.
Yeah. That's so true.
I think that's what a therapist does, in my opinion. Helps you figure things out on your own and listens to you. Which, again, it's like a professional friend, because your friends are supposed to be able to listen to you. Unfortunately, they have their input and their 2 cents and their judgment.
And they can't give you advice. You know, therapists are not supposed to give you advice, but they can help you to kind of find the solution in a way without telling you, like, do this, you know, because then that's like what a friend would do. If a friend would say, well, I think you should do this, you know, and it's like, yeah, no. And sometimes that's not what people need.
You should.
Yeah.
Or I would.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or my friend did. Or all these different, again, I can't remember them, but I'm pretty sure there's either 9 or 10 ineffective ways of communicating. And like you said, where we kind of hold on to things that we're not supposed to, because of maybe societal roles or whatever, as far as it's a family member or it's a friend or I've known them for this long, and you're holding on to something that's not benefiting you. It's like, I've made this reference recently to someone close to me. It's like, you want to hold the porcupine. That's what you want. But that porcupine has the little, what are they called? The quills?
I don't know what they're called, but the spikes or whatever. I don't know what they're called.
And you're like, but I love that porcupine. I want to hold that porcupine.
Oh
but
my
it's hurting
gosh.
you.
Yes. Yes.
Like, it's hurting you. And you're just like,
Yep.
because it's a family member, or because, you know, all these different reasons as to why you either stay in a relationship, whether it's romantic or whether it's, you know, a family, or any different variation of holding on to something that is not good for you, but you have all these different reasons and things telling you that you should,
Right.
or people, and it's not helping you. It's actually hurting you. And you're like, but the porcupine is so cute.
Yeah. It's like the Bible says, you will know a tree by its fruit. So like, if a tree is growing rotten fruit, that's the fruit that it grows. It's growing rotten fruit. You will know a tree by its fruit. And it's not, you will judge a tree by its fruit. You're not passing judgment. You're not God. You're not over here that you're bad because you're rotten, but you will know the tree by its fruit. So if you take a bite out of a rotten apple, be prepared to have rotten apple in your mouth. Like, you know, you can't change the nature of a thing. If somebody's a snake and they bite you once, you hold them. They don't be surprised if they bite you again, because that's what snakes do if you hold them the wrong way.
Same person I told about the porcupine. It's like, sometimes people can't help it, right? And I'm not saying that that's an excuse, but at the same time, you got to make that, you have to acknowledge that. You have to recognize it. And I said, have you heard about the scorpion and the toad? He's like, nope. And I was like, and again, I'm going to butcher it, but basically, there's a toad or a frog and there's a scorpion, and they got to get across. And then the scorpion says, let me hop on your back, and then, you know, you can take me across. And he says, no, you're going to sting me. And he's like, why would I do that? Then we'll both die.
Yeah.
He's just like, makes sense. So as they cross over and they're like halfway there, or maybe when they're all the way over, scorpion stings them.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, why would you do that? And he says, it's in my nature.
100%.
So it's like, that's a scorpion. That's just how they are.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they had trauma, and maybe they had things that they're dealing with that don't know how to deal with, or whatever it is. But that's, it is what it is. And I'm not saying that you have to justify or forgive someone because of how they are, but sometimes you really have to acknowledge and recognize who they are and what they are. And it's just like, yeah, I don't want to get stung. I'm good.
Yeah. And
right? Be a scorpion over there.
Exactly. And sometimes it's not necessarily about cutting people off. It's just about like setting boundaries. Like, I still want to have communication with this person, but I know that I can't get too close to them, because when I'm that close to them, things tend to happen that upset me, and I need to protect myself. It's self-preservation at the end of the day. Do you want to, if you want to maintain the relationship, then you have to set boundaries. Relationships are meant to, or boundaries are meant to preserve relationships. It's what keeps relationships intact. Without boundaries, like, you know, there's no guardrails. It's like anything goes. And when that happens, people get hurt. So
it's like anything else. Sometimes it's a little is better than a lot. You can be good with someone if you see them every 3 months.
Yeah.
You know?
I get that.
It's kind of like food. You have pizza, you know, once in a while.
But not every day.
Then you're going to get heartburn, or it's just like, yeah, but I can enjoy pizza every once in a while.
Right.
And there's certain people
100%.
where it's, I can take you in small doses.
Tell me about it.
Or I can take you after, you know, a certain amount of alcohol or whatever it is. It's doses. Because then if it gets too much too often, and if it becomes too late in the evening or whatever, then it starts to spiral.
Yeah.
And then you get to a point that you don't want to be with that person. And I still want to maintain that relationship. But I know once it's too frequent or too often or too many slices, whatever, then it starts to have the potential to be and to develop into something that you don't want.
Yeah.
So you can still maintain relationships. You don't have to cut people completely off. But like you said, there's boundaries. And those boundaries are guardrails. It's when you get off the freeway and it goes like this, There's a little guardrail.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
there's a speed limit.
Yeah.
Mind the guardrail, mind your speed, and you'll be able to get off the off-ramp successfully without
Yeah.
any problems.
Exactly.
But if you don't have those guardrails, if it's raining, if there's all these different factors that can make that thing that you would normally do a-okay into it turning into a disaster, it's really good when you can acknowledge what those things are.
Yeah, there's this pastor, his name's Dr. Darius Daniels, and he's a pastor, and
Is he a pastor?
Yeah, he's a pastor.
Mhm.
And he's just very like, he's so good. I love him. He's so articulate. He's able to like express like these biblical truths, but in a way that's practical for like daily life, you know?
Where is he?
You know what? He has like different locations, but I know he has like a church in Jersey, and then I think he has
you
one
listen
in
to him
Atlanta.
Online?
Yeah, it's online.
Okay.
So he talks about relational intelligence and basically how you can like position people differently in your life as you get to know them. So this is the other part of boundaries because, you know, like you said earlier, oh, somebody could be in your life for years and you might think, well, I can't not talk to them because that's so-and-so. That's, you know, I've known them for so many years. And it's like, he talks about how like some people can be changed position in your life. Like you can move them out of that position of, you know, importance in your life. It doesn't mean that you don't still love them, but maybe you just don't put them on the high priority list. And he said something else that I thought was really powerful. And he said something along the lines of, and I don't remember word for word, but basically, see, this is like ADHD. Like literally, I had it and it just like went away.
The position of someone not being unimportant, but maybe not as important.
Yeah. So everyone's equally important to God, but like not everybody is going to be equally important to you. And I thought that was like super profound for some reason, because it's like, if you believe in God, then yeah, you believe that God like loves everybody the same. But like as a human to human, you may not love, like you might not hold a certain person to a certain level of importance or love as someone else. And that's fair, right? Where does that knee-jerk reaction come from to like make everybody feel like they need to be just as important, or that entitlement of like, I should be just as important as this person? And it's like, no, but you're not. Do you know what I mean? So
I think it's something where you can acknowledge and recognize as to who and what people mean to you. It's like with these friends, I can go out and we can hang out. But if something really happens, if I need you at 3:00 in the morning, I know which people I can call. The people that I'm going out with or something and having a different relationship with, it's not the same thing. Again, you're important to me. It's a different type of importance, though. You're not unimportant. It's just a different type of importance.
yeah.
And it's okay to, I think, kind of put people in their place. And I don't mean that in like a bad way, like, you know, put them in their place.
No,
But
I know what you mean.
yeah, it's just like acknowledge what people represent for you and the relationship that you have with them and that they have to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, with like there's people that I actually had in one position in my life for a season, and then they changed positions in my life in another season, and that was okay as long as like there was a mutual understanding that like, hey, we're not where we used to be, but like we're cool, you know? And that's fine. That happens. And it doesn't mean that it has to end in this like crazy, like egregious way. Like it could just be that, you know, we're not really working out in that way anymore.
Yeah, there's
you know?
nothing wrong with that. And a lot of the times it's not something, I would say, like pivotal that happens. I've had to ask certain friends that. It's just like, well, I just want to know where we stand as friends. Like,
You've had people ask you that?
No, I've had to ask my friends that.
Oh, okay.
Right? It's just like, it's not like so I've had friends. I'm very fortunate to have a lot of friends. And I don't mean acquaintances. I mean, literally anybody who I consider my friend. I'll call you at 3:00 in the morning, they'll probably answer.
That's good. I don't have a lot of that in my life. No. Part of that was the elimination process.
I've been very fortunate to make.
That is a very fortunate thing to have.
Every job that I've ever had.
You told me this last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you've made friends with a lot of people at work.
Not my friends.
Yeah.
Right? Again, I posted the videos of like my mom,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had someone that I used to work with 15 years ago. Well, I haven't seen in a long time. Call me. Yo, what's up, man? Like, you know, let the Merlos brothers know. He's just like, if you guys need anything, like, I'm here for you guys.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not just because of that. It's just, I know the type of relationship that I'm fortunate enough to have. And I feel very #blessed, fortunate, whatever it may be.
It is.
Or synonym that you want to put in there. But I'm very fortunate that I have a lot of true friends. And then there's friends and the people that I've known for a long time. And sometimes my relationship, I think because I have so many friends, and also I'm like 90% homebody, 10%, you know, like go out. Mm-hmm. My best friend, sometimes I don't see him for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 3 months, and nothing changes, right? And I have friends that I don't see sometimes for like years.
Yeah.
And it doesn't change anything.
That's a beautiful thing when you can pick up where you left off after like months, years of not seeing someone. Mm-hmm. And it's an authentic connection. So it doesn't go away.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other friends where just as life happens and as you get a family and career changes and all these different things, maybe the frequency of communication diminishes. But I did have a friend where certain things kind of, I was like, oh, like we might not be where we used to be before. Again, we can still pick up and we can still talk and hang out. But there was a little like patch where I was just like, yeah, man, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying, again, like if this is the relationship or the type of dynamic that you want to have, by all means. And I was like, I just kind of want to know where we stand.
By
He's
all
like,
yeah.
And he was like, no, like we're good.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I just got things going. I got things that I got going on. He's just like, but do understand. And he's just like, and please believe. He's like, if you need anything, I mean, anything at all. He's just, except for money. If you need money, ask your brother first. Then ask this son. Then ask this other person, and then come to me.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I'm kidding. But I was unsure of kind of where we stood.
Yeah.
So I asked, and it was just like, no. Like, I'm just kind of going through, you know, like certain things. But when I asked him that, it wasn't like, yo, like, what's going on between us, bro? Like, you know,
it wasn't like aggressive. You were just like inquisitive, like,
no.
Okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
haven't heard from you in a while. Or something.
Which isn't out of the ordinary, but I just felt like there was something a little bit off. And I was just like, no, man.
And
like,
you could have been picking up on the fact that maybe he was going through something.
And that's what I you know, I try to do my due diligence. I do my very best, even though I fail all the time with friends, with family. It's something that I do when I run a lot of the times. And I run without music because I can't get away from my thoughts. Like if I'm listening to music, I can distract myself. I can, you know, the beat, the song, the lyrics. But if I'm running or if I'm biking and I don't have any music, at least for me, it's my mental check-in. And then I go through the people who are important to me. And I got MySpace top 8, right? I got my mom, my dad, my brothers, a few friends.
Yeah.
But there's so many people that are important to me in my life.
Yeah.
So I'm like, damn. I'm like, when's the last time I checked in on my little cousin? Even though I just saw her the other day, right? Saw her at my other cousin's son's first birthday.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, I haven't hung out with her in a while. Like, I need to check in with her.
Yeah.
And then she's like, what up, homegirl? Like, how are you?
Yeah.
How you been? What's going on in your fucking life? Even though I just saw you. So I'll do like my little like mental check-in of the people who are important to me. And then I'll reach out.
That's good. Yeah. I definitely like to have a small circle of people that I, you know, communicate with frequently, but I want to expand my circle more. It's just that I'm more like mindful of who I let in because of what I've gone through. And it is one of those things where you have to learn to trust yourself and trust others, you know, and that's a process sometimes.
Yeah, there's I understand that aspect of people. You see that a lot on Instagram. And it's, I think, personal. Or it's Yeah, I would say like personal to certain people, right? But I think that just like trigger words, I think that became very commonplace
What
to see on social media.
what
I
part?
keep my circle small.
Well, that's I
It's
know. And that's why
just like,
when I said that I was like I felt like myself another buzzword,
and
another freaking buzzword
and I'm not
or
trying to,
buzz phrase.
yeah, I'm not I'm not trying to like poke fun at you or
No, I know.
anybody
No.
who feels that way, right? I understand it. There's a lot of people who have been burned by friends, burned by family. I'm not taking that away from them,
Yeah.
but I do feel like I see that is like very common for people to be like, oh, I keep my circle small, or I'd rather have two friends, two real friends, than 1,000 fake friends.
Well, there's
And I'm
some
like,
truth to that though.
there is. There's
Like
a
you
lot of truth
said,
to it.
there is.
There's a ton of truth to it.
Yeah.
But to me,
Quality over quantity.
another one that gets
But I really feel strongly about that because I used to have a lot of friends. I used to consider myself to be somebody that was much more social and much more out. Like, you know, I had to go out more and stuff. I'm like you. I'm like 90-10. 90% of the time I'm a homebody. 10% I'm out doing something. And most of the time it's when I'm out, it's like not really going out. It's like going to the grocery store and going to the gym and like going hiking. Like,
oh yeah.
yeah. So
Those are the main things that I do.
yeah,
And food outings.
yeah, like I told you, I like snacks on the weekends too. So it's like, you know, for me, snacks every day. Yeah,
Goddamn
exactly. Hashtag snacks every
Mhm.
day. But yeah, so I've grown. Like I've grown away from wanting to have a bunch of people around me that I don't feel like I can, like you said, call at 3 a.m. and be like, hey,
Right.
I need something. Because they're not going to answer.
Correct.
They're not.
But I do feel that became very like
Popular.
Yeah, like
Trendy.
popular or trendy. And again, it doesn't mean that it's people are doing it because it's popular or because it's trendy. It's probably how you genuinely feel.
Yeah.
I luckily, again, I do
We know, Diego, you scored the friendship jackpot in your life.
I did. But sometimes I wonder to myself, and I could be wrong, where I'm like, so your entire life you just had shitty people around you? Like, are you just not good at selecting people? Are you just not a good judge of character?
I'll be honest, I wasn't.
And there's a lot of people where I'm like, there's some people that you and I know, where I'm like, motherfucker, you 40. And it's the same thing and the same attitude and the same stuff as when we were in high school.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like, and I'm not saying it is. Sometimes it could be, but I'm like,
time to look in the mirror.
Could it be you?
Yeah.
Like, or is it just everyone?
No,
always for the last 20 years, everybody's stupid or everybody's this or everybody's that, or it's just like, sometimes we got to look within ourselves.
Yeah.
And especially if it's a reoccurring theme. And a lot of times people don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because being someone who is doing therapy, I think that in and of itself takes courage because you're going to have to look at yourself.
Oh, for sure. Like, I'll be the first to admit, like, I take accountability for my part in the relationships I've had, friendships I've had, my family relationships, and how things went awry in those relationships and why those things didn't pan out. And a big part of it was fear of conflict, fear of confrontation. Instead of having a conversation and being like, hey, this really hurt me, I would just stop talking altogether, just like ghost people because I didn't know how to confront them. I felt like if I confronted them, they were going to attack me. They were going to come for me because that's been the pattern. So learning how to like articulate how you feel and be honest about how you feel is hard sometimes. Like, how do you tell somebody, well, I think you're kind of an asshole, but you're like my cousin.
Dude, you're
or my
sometimes.
Whatever. Yeah. But I didn't have the courage to do that all the time. So like I just would become avoidant. Yeah. And that wasn't the best way to handle it, you know, but.
And a lot of the times it's the easiest way to handle it. It's just kind of like, fuck, I'm just not going to deal with it.
Well, yeah, because it's like, is it really going to change anything? You know, sometimes it's like you talk to somebody and this is just who they are. Going back to the snake thing. Like some people, like you can tell them to your blue in the face that they hurt you. They did this, that, and the other to you. And they're just going to be like, okay, well, sorry you felt that way. And then it's just like the same shit, different day. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, at what point am I going to draw the line in the sand and be like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't want to talk about this. Like, you don't get it. You're not going to change.
Yeah, boundaries. Setting up boundaries and acknowledging what those boundaries are for you.
Yeah.
It's I think my brother mentioned this on a podcast one time. There's a thing about respect, right? My parents have always inculcated a big line of respect within us, right? Yes, I mean, it may not look like it. We respect our parents. Even though I mess with my mom and do all these different things, they've definitely taught us, like certain respect. But my brother was saying that my dad, like as a man, has always had like, there's like a line. There's an hasta aquí, like until there. Like you cross that line, I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
I'm telling you something, right? And as a man, I think it may be different for like women, but like I had to tell one of my managers one time, and I was like, oh, no. Like you and I need to have a conversation. Like either in private or we can have it right now.
Yeah.
Like I don't care if you're my superior. It's just like you're a man, I'm a man. Or you're a person, I'm a person. If we're not going to make it gender specific, right? Because it could have been a woman who said that, and this is like, no. Like, you don't fucking talk to me like that.
Yeah.
I respect you, you respect me. Like, if you don't respect that, like, we're going to have problems.
Yeah.
And you have to have that. And again, that was 100% a confrontational thing, like, on my behalf.
Yeah.
But it's like, another aspects or a different example of it, or in a different situation, I think my parents did a really good job of showing us that we have to have boundaries. We have to have an hasta aquí, like until there.
Yeah.
Like, you can make certain jokes, or you can do certain things, or again, you can behave in a certain way, but with anything,
there's got to be a line.
You need to have a clear line.
Yeah.
And it has to do with self-respect.
Yeah. And you know what? I think a big part of it too is like, there's not enough talk about like family systems and how in families, like you talk about your mom and your dad and your brothers having like this family system of like understanding respect and boundaries in how you guys interact with each other. In some families, there's no conversation about that.
Yeah.
And that was true for me in a family system that I was a part of. There wasn't a conversation about respect. It was more of like, you just respect your elders and you don't ever like, you're never right. The elders are right. You're wrong.
Yeah, I think a lot of parents make that mistake. I'm not saying that your parents made a mistake, but I'm saying that there are parents who make a mistake because I said so. Like, or they teach their kids to respect adults, which you should. But my parents always made it real clear on like certain things.
Like not all adults need, right?
Not necessarily not all adults, but it's like, hold on, just because you're an adult, because when you teach a kid that, in my opinion, like if you teach a kid like whatever an adult says goes, fuck no.
Then you're setting yourself up for a predator taking advantage, right? Exactly. That's a good point. Yeah.
It's, because you're an adult, like I'm supposed to do as you say or allow you to do certain things because you're an adult? Nah. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
And when you teach those kids, like, because I'm an adult, or again, different with parents, but like you respect all adults and like just because they're an adult, no. Right? Or my parents, if, speaking of like predators or something like that, my mom and dad never forced me to hug anybody. And when I see people do that, and I'm like,
I don't like that either.
What are you doing?
No.
Like,
why are you
my parents have always made us respectful enough to acknowledge and say hello to people. You walk into a room, you say hello.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, oh, that's your aunt, go give her a hug. It was never like that. I could say, buenas tardes.
Yeah.
Hi, tia.
See,
but it wasn't like, oh, go give him a hug. Exactly. Oh, we're leaving. Give him a hug.
That's what I had to do, but it was more so on another side of the family. It wasn't my immediate family. It was like on the extended side. Like it would be like, oh, go give so-and-so a hug. And then I'd be like, oh, like I don't want to. That person creeps me out, or like I get a weird vibe from them.
Exactly.
I actually had an uncle, a great uncle, that he just gave me the heebie-jeebies. And I just knew something was off. Then years later, my grandma on my mom's side was like, yeah, that uncle tried to come over and like make a move, and he was married. And yeah, and I was like, see, I always knew he was a creep. Like,
and that's one of the things where it's like I've had friends. Most of my friends have kids, right? But then, you know, when I leave or like whatever, say bye to everybody, and then to the little kids, and I'm like, later. I always go for a little fist bump. If they want to give me a hug, they give me a hug, right? But I've had friends that's like, oh, like give Diego a hug, and sometimes kids are just like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Right. Nothing to do
Good
with
for them. Yeah.
They're not. It's nothing on like the person. Sometimes kids are just like shy or something like that, right? But then I'm like, all right, later. And then, you know, like I'll do this and like, no, give them a hug. And I'm like, don't force your kid to hug me.
Yeah.
What if they don't want to hug me? Or don't force them to hug anybody, family included.
Yeah.
It's not. Well, again, I think boomers and people who didn't understand that. So it's like you respect your elders or you respect family or like certain family values, as I think they would probably put it. It's just like need to be kept or met, and it's probably not always the best thing. You don't talk about your feelings. No, you should. Talk about your feelings. And I think a lot of people feel that that's a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
Showing emotion. And then I always have to remind people, like when someone's emotional, I think most people think of like sensitive or crying or, you know, distraught, whatever. But anger is an emotion. A lot of people get anger. You get angry. It's just like you're emotional as shit. Just like your emotion is anger. But you're still emotional.
Exactly. And I think that there's like this this idea that like, you know, like you said earlier, like men can't show emotion, but like they show anger a lot easier than they show crying. Why is that? Well, it's because in society, like generally it's okay for a man to be angry, but it's not okay for him to cry. Well, it's the same with women. It's okay for a woman to be sad and to cry, but it's not okay for her to show anger. And if she does, well, then she's a, you know what? She's the B word.
You can cuss.
She's a bitch. If she is too angry and too assertive, then she's a bitch. So it's like, there's these like I think it's programming that happens from a very young age, where we get programmed to think like, it's okay if you're a boy and you punch a hole in the wall, you just can't cry. Like there's like certain things that
it's interesting.
No, I'm just saying that like
an example.
In the extreme ways, like,
yeah.
And then it's like, you know, if a girl cries, it's fine, but like she can't be mad because she's crazy if she's mad, or she's a bitch if she's mad.
Well, if she's mad all the time, then
yeah, I mean, obviously, like go to therapy. No, I'm just kidding, but you know, like it's okay to have these emotions though, and to express them to some level, as long as you're not like breaking things, hitting people, and you know what I mean?
As long as you're not hurting yourself or others.
Yeah, exactly.
I would tell this to my niece all the time. Like, feel what you need to feel, homegirl. If you're sad, cry.
Yeah.
If you're angry, be angry. Yell into your pillow.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're going to decide whether that affects you or not, or how it affects you. But don't bottle up your emotions.
Yeah.
Don't mask them. Don't try to not feel them. Because then if you bottle them up, they're going to spill at some point.
For sure.
Right? And it's going to be like a Mentos in a Coke bottle. Feel what you need to feel.
Yeah.
And then you decide how it affects you. But it's a process that you need to learn on how to manage your emotions. But I always would tell them, it's like, don't try to not feel what you need to feel.
And some people can't even identify what they're feeling. Like, let's be honest, like sometimes like we don't even know what we're feeling, and we need a moment to think about like, oh, I'm actually upset or bothered by what this person said, or what about this, whatever happened, you know, whatever circumstance. And, you know, that's a process too, figuring out what you're feeling.
And it takes time sometimes. And sometimes people aren't okay with that. Say in a relationship, I'll be back. I'm going to go to the store. Oh, you're just going to leave this? So it's like, I need to process this. And I don't want to be around you right now because you're irritating me. And people are just like, no, I want to know now. We're going to talk about it now. So it's like, no, let me process this. And sometimes you need to sleep it off. And sometimes you need more than that. Sometimes you need a little space.
I agree. And I think that's a good thing. Like, I was listening to someone talk about that, like, you know, being able to say like, hey, I need some time to just, you know, I need some space. Like, let's reconvene later and we can continue this conversation because I feel like I'm going to say something I don't want to say, or, you know, I need time to cool down. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to resolve it right then and there. And I think when I was younger, I was like, we need to solve this now.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are like that. And it's understandable. You want to fix it. You want an answer.
Yeah.
But you can't always have answers immediately.
Yeah.
I've taken times to process emotions. And when I remember I was dating a girl once, and I was like, I don't know if I'm feeling it. But I need time. I don't want to make a hasty decision and be like, nope, not feeling it. Adios. So it took me like a week and a half. It took me 2 weeks, right? And I would, even when I'd go biking, I'd think about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, am I holding on to something from my previous relationship? Like, is there a factor? Is it this? Is it that? Or is it really what I'm feeling? And it took me like a week and a half, 2 weeks to be like, no, like this is what it is. And I was right. But I didn't want to make a hasty decision.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's been other times where I'm like, no, because then it gave me time to look at it in a different perspective. And it's just like, okay, no, it's actually this. But you need to have ample time to be able to process your emotions and then, again, decide what action you're going to take. Yeah. But sometimes people don't want to give us that time. And people want things right away. Or we want an answer right away or a solution. Yeah. And it's normal to want something to be fixed or to be addressed now.
Yeah, for sure. I actually, like, I would stay in things too long, you know, because I didn't want to, again, have that conflict, have that conversation, or admit to myself and take that time to think, like you said, take that time to think about what it is that you need and want. If you don't know what you need and want, and you're just in it to be in it, you're just in it for the ride, like, you're really not being intentional, you know? And when you're young, it's like, it's cool, you know, like, I guess, I mean, looking back, I would do things a lot differently, but sometimes you just get involved in stuff because it's like, oh, I'm attracted to them, they are attracted to me, we like each other, oh, we think we love each other, so let's be together. And then it's like, holy crap, they have this issue, they have that issue, I have this issue, I have that issue, and we're over here trying to make it work, and it's not working. You know? And that's why, like, I needed to take the time to just be by myself. And I'm still by myself. Like, you know, the next person that I'm with, I'm going to marry. Like, I'm not going to have like a long relationship again. And like, I want to get married one day, you know? And I know what I need and want more than I did when I was younger. So like, I'm not going to waste time. Like, either they know what they want or they don't. And we're on the same page or we're not. And they have to have like the same values as me and stuff too, you know, because like that's important. So, but yeah, having those tough conversations, sometimes it's necessary to step back and just process by yourself. And then you can come back together and, you know, go from there.
Yeah, I think a really good way to process emotions is by journaling.
Oh, I journal. I love to journal.
Yeah, it's mind dumping. You're putting your thoughts, everything that's in your brain onto paper. And as you're writing it, maybe you feel something or you feel something else. But it gives you an opportunity to process things. I have a few journals. And sometimes I'll just look back at them and I'll look through like entries and I'm like, all right, how was I feeling at this point? And what was working for me that was making me feel happy? And if I wasn't as happy, what was going on? And then if I didn't, what did I do to change it to get back to happy? Like, it's a good reference point of you and your feelings throughout time. So journaling, I think, is a really good way of expressing your emotions.
Yeah, when you talk about tools, that's one of the things that my therapist suggested. And I had already journaled before I just got back into it. Journaling, I spend every morning, like, you know, I read a devotional, I pray, like going to church, like that keeps me like sane and like, I don't know, it just, it's what works for me. And exercising, you know, you have to find things to like de-stress. Otherwise, just too much. Life
Yeah,
is too
you get all
much.
wound up.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you take action to address certain issues. But I think, yeah, journaling is definitely a good one. Like you said, working out, meditating. Like, you're not supposed to not have thoughts when you meditate, in my opinion.
I don't think so either. Like who can really erase all their thoughts out of their mind? I know even when I'm trying to focus, it's like, oh, what am I going to eat for lunch later? What am I going to have for dinner later? Like random thoughts. Like I cannot shut off my thoughts either. So
I don't think anybody can.
yeah. So when people say that, I'm like, that's BS. I don't think that's like real.
Yeah, I would do
That's just my opinion. I don't think you can.
it in the sauna.
Unless I'm like going to sleep, and then it's like obviously you're dreaming, you're not thinking, but your brain's always working. Your brain's always processing something.
Yeah, I think it's like a shark, just always moving. Like
Yeah.
you can't shut your brain off. It's
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah.
You can focus on something, you can try to focus something when you're breathing, but it's a good way for you to, again, be alone with your thoughts. And then that way, and I think a lot of people will do anything that they can to not be alone with their thoughts. You will try to push them out. You'll try to ignore them. You'll try to drown them out. You'll try to do things so that you don't have to face reality. You don't have to feel or face what you're dealing with. That's not always a good thing. And then being introspective, it's difficult because you know all your shortcomings, you know where you fucked up, you know the things that you should have done, what you could have said differently, what all your shortcomings. So people don't want to deal with that. People don't want like put that on themselves. So it's like, I'm not going to do that.
It's like accountability.
It's like,
A lot of people don't want to deal with that. Yeah.
You don't want to be Michael Jackson and face the man in the mirror.
Yeah, for sure. And you have to, if you want to grow, you have to be able to dig deep and figure out, what it is that you need to change and work on so that you can have better relationships with other people.
And
Because
with
that's the
yourself.
whole point. And for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, the relationship that you have with yourself is of the utmost importance, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like self-talk.
That's something that I started working on a few years ago. That was part of what I knew I needed to change. So learning to not self-abandon, like learning to think about what I want and need and things like that, like I said earlier. So yeah, for sure.
Really good, miss. I think we did almost 2 hours.
That's good.
Good. Anything else you'd like to touch on?
No.
Good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Well, appreciate you coming in for a second time. Yeah. Sorry that the audio, and then luckily this time George came in here to check everything, and it's good. But we'll definitely make sure that we put this out sometime soon. We have a few in the can, as they say.
Yeah.
And then I'll tag you in all the reels.
Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming back in. And I really enjoyed the conversation. Congratulations on your switch and in your career. I know that's something that you've been wanting to do. And congratulations. Proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes. All right, guys.